Welcome once again to Otto's Garage. Okay, so we've got the cams in, and we've also just been having a look at getting the timing belt set up as well. So I'll just show you what I've done on that. So with the cams in, there's a couple of little alignment marks here. So there's one on this which also aligns with this diamond here, and there's one on the other side as well. So what you've basically got to do is time it to number one, that's the front one, and you'll line up those marks with the cam wheels, and you can see they're not actually aligned at the moment, but you can see there's a little mark here, and on this one there's a little mark here as well. The tricky thing is that those cam wheels will go on either cam. They haven't actually specified inlet and outlet on it, which does make it a bit tricky, and I had them the wrong way when I first did it. But in any event, we flipped them over, and it looks all good at the moment. So the other thing as well that you need to look at is the alignment down the bottom, which basically brings us, there's a little mark, I don't know if you can see that. It's not brilliantly there, you can see that there. So that mark there aligns with this casting over here, and that makes that top dead center for number one. So at the moment I can tell you that we're probably 360 degrees out, because at the moment these alignment marks are in the wrong place. So if we wind those around, and it's dead easy to do that, I am actually going to have to go the wrong way because it's a left hand thread, but it doesn't make any difference. And you can see how they're rotating around. So when those marks get up to the top, and it is actually easier to see, it's about in the right place, but we'll have a look around the back because it's easier to see around the back. There's a tighter mark. As it comes around, you'll see that come into the window there. So that little notch now is aligned nicely in the window down with that one, and then when we look on the other side, I've just gone a wee bit too far possibly on that. On the other side it'll just come, yeah, you can see it there. She's in alignment there. Now the problem you do get with factory cam wheels is that you lose that minuscule adjustment that you might want to have, because obviously you're tied to the nearest tooth on the belt. If you use a vernier pulley, you then have infinite adjustment and getting those exactly in the right place. But it worked before, and we're going to go with what we've got at the moment. But if you look from the front, you can see how those alignment marks are going into that window. In fact, I'm not 100% pleased with that, because I think this one could probably come round one tooth. That one's bang on. This one probably could come round one tooth, but you are limited, like I say, on where the teeth are on there, and it might drop it down too far. But in any event, yeah, we're kind of 90% there, but I have got to have a double check on that. Right, I've just adjusted that, so now we have got one mark in here, and another one on here, and they do actually align nicely inside. And then the number one TDC is lining up there nicely, and I've just tensioned that back up again. So when we look inside on the back side, you can see we've got a timing mark on here, and we've got another one on there as well. So they all align nicely. So that is in its correct place, and the cam timing is done. I'm going to give that a rotation around a couple of times, 2 turns on the crank. That should bring us back up to where we are, and hopefully that will all be good and we can tighten everything up. Happy days indeed. Kaboosh. Right, I'm just trying to get a few of the ancillaries on now. These 2 bolts down here go through the new water pump adapter plate, because obviously I haven't got a pump in there, but I need them that length because there's a steady brace that bolts on the front, so I'm going to reuse those ones, and then all we'll do is we'll just put some sleeves on to get the correct spacing out there. Around this side we've got the exhaust manifold, which I've just popped on, because what I need to know is how that turbo is going to fit before we get into the car. So that's really the next thing to do, try and get that on there and see how it all offers up. I've put the drain down here, so that's the oil return down to the sump for that. So I'll get that bolted on and we'll see what she looks like. Right, I've just offered the Max Speeding Rods turbo on there, and you can just have a look at the small issue that we've got. So that is the beast in its glory, which is fine. You know, the manifold plate will match up and everything there. Might be able to do something with this to get that to act as a mounting lug on there, so that should be quite cool. But around this side you can see the outlet on it is firing straight down into the gearbox. So what we're going to have to do is adjust the compressor housing, and that's going to have to be spun round so that the outlet on it is going in a different direction. I'll just see if I can get to show you that. So there, if you can see from this side, that's more obvious. So that's going exactly in the wrong place. Wastegate I think will be okay, the actuator, but this I'm going to have to spin round and maybe have the outlet coming down here, and then that can go off to the front mounted intercooler. But at least we know that is pretty much going to fit. Obviously it's fouling on the stand at the moment, that's not a major problem. But yeah, that's cool, so we should be able to do that. Well, with that engine taking shape now, and I've put the exhaust manifold on there just to try and see what the turbo's doing, we need to have a look on the other side, which is the inlet manifold. And this is what we're talking about. So basically we've got the throttle body on this end, and that is the throttle position sensor. There's a variety of inlets there. Some are vacuum, some are actually water inlets, because this is heated as well by the water, or the coolant I should say. As you can see, and you've got underneath there, that's the fuel rail basically with the injectors, and I'll just flick that over so you can just have a quick look at that. So that's inside the 4 injectors on that. I'm looking at using a slightly bigger injector there as well, so that might just give us a bit more option on the ECU map, which I think I might be going with having a purpose built map rather than using the original factory standard one. But anyway, so we've got a manifold sensor here, and what else is there? Just a bit of a takeoff as a vacuum takeoff pipe around the back of there, but you can generally see it needs a bit of a clean up. So we'll strip the throttle body off, we'll get some of these other parts off, get the fuel rail off, and then we can have a look at cleaning it up, making it look a lot tidier. That's the manifold stripped down. So we've got the injector fuel rail there, that's the injectors themselves, and again, like I said, I'm going to have a look and see what kind of CC they've got, and I'm looking possibly at upgrading those, so we can get a bit more fuel squirted in there. Over here, throttle body, and that again just needs a good clean off. We'll clean that all down and see what we've got. I'll just see what I might do is I might take off the TPS, and then that might be able to go through the parts washer. We'll have a look at that and see. Yeah, and then I've just got myself a little tray on the side here, just with all bits on it, and that's the manifold temperature, I think it is. I think it's the temperature sensor in the manifold. Right, cool. So we'll get those parts cleaned up, and then we can get them assembled and get them on the side of that head. The other thing I'm having a look at is the gearbox and the differential with the bias proportioning setup there as well. So what I need to do is give it a good clean off, and I've just had to bolt the front diff back up to the side of the gearbox so that we're closing off all the little exposed oil ways, basically, because obviously when I clean off I don't want to get any water in there. So we're just going to have a quick look. I'll show you what I've done on that. So this is the gearbox. So she's on her side at the moment. This is the epicyclic in here, so that determines the percentage of drive to the front and rear. And obviously on the 8 valve, that's set up as 53% to the front and 47 to the back. So you can change that and put a 16 valve one in, which flicks it the other way around to get more rear bias. That's for another day. This is the diff with the Torsen drive on that as well. So basically that's all sorted. I've just bolted that back together with this big bolt up here and that one down there as well. I've just got to pop this one in underneath here and just tighten up this union, which is the gear transfer, the oil gear transfer pipe on there, and then I think we will be ready. I'll have a quick look around it, but I think we'll be ready for just getting her out on this pallet and trying to give her a bit of a clean up, blast some of that off. You can see here the end casing where that one was broken, and that's the new casing down there basically. So afterwards, when we've cleaned it up, we'll take this end casing off and we'll swap those over, and it will give us the opportunity to have a look inside as well. But that's basically the gearbox. This is the gear change mechanism here. So basically, oops, that goes off to the gear lever through the bulkhead, and then this is kind of like the whole up and down and in and out and left and right, etc. So that's cool. I'll just get those last bolts in there and then we'll get that outside for a bit of a clean. Okay, that's that cleaned off. So that is looking a lot better already. Got rid of most of that cack that was inside the bell housing there. I am going to take out, obviously that's the clutch release bearing, that'll come out, and I'm going to replace the seal which is in behind the clutch release bearing. That's the main drive seal, because I think that might be what was leaking. But anyway, we're going to do it while we can. So it is looking a lot better. Most of the grime's off. I didn't bother too much with the end here because obviously that's coming off anyway. But we've got most of the cack off there, so that's good. That needs a bit of love and attention, and it won't look like that when it goes back on the car. It'll look shiny. So with that done, we're now going to have a look at something else, and this is the thermostat housing. So this sits on top of the cylinder head here. We've got a water temperature sensor here. I'm going to take this off and get the thermostat out and chuck that away. We don't need that anymore because the electric water pump and control unit is going to optimize all of that. This is I think it's the idle control valve, so that basically adjusts the idle. Haha, well, it controls it. In any event, that's got to come off, and then what we'll do is we'll get this round to Tim's and we'll drop it in the ultrasound and get it all nice and clean. With those bolts removed, we can take the thermostat housing off, and there she is underneath the actual thermostat itself. So normally this would control how much water was being released by the engine going through to the top hose off to the radiator, but in our instance, like I say, we don't want that, so I'm going to break that out. That has been in there a while. There's a lot of calcification going on around there, isn't there? So we'll take that out, we'll F it off, and we'll just have a completely open free flow, and obviously the intelligent water pump will control that flow, and it will send more water to the radiator when it's hot and less when it's cool. The other thing that the intelligent controller does for the water pump is it sends a signal to the fan and switches the fan on and off as well. So the whole package will be controlled externally rather than having these manual controls, which are really quite dated nowadays. I've just given that a couple of taps with the hammer and out she is. So you can see how that controls. It's a bit like your radiator cap. Similar sort of issue. When the heat and the pressure builds up, pop, she opens up and lets the old water out. So anyway, we don't need that. That can go in the bin. Right, I'm going to have a look at that turbo and see whether we can't just twist the outlet port around to a more favourable position in the engine bay. There it is currently. So it's this port here that we need to be spinning around so it's exiting kind of in this direction. But you can see here the bracket that's holding on the actuator, that's got to stay in the same place relative to this. So what I'm thinking is that we could really do with it coming out over here anyway. So I'm hoping that if I can spin this round, not one but possibly two, we'll have the exhaust off the compressor, if you like, which will go to the intercooler. That'll come out here somewhere, and it'll clear that bracket. So I'm going to need to undo a few of those bolts and see if I can relocate it. Right, the bolts are off, so that is now free to rotate whichever way we want it to go. But what I'm just going to do is show you what's occurring inside. So there's the compressor wheel, and on the back side that's kind of like the inlet and the compressor housing as such, really. So that doesn't look too bad, you know. That's not a bad piece of work, really, I don't think. So anyway, we pop that back on there. The issue that I'm going to get is that when it's facing ideally exactly where I want it, which would be going down like that, if you like, the actuator is in the way. It fouls, so we can't go there with it. I don't think I can move that actuator all the way around, so I'm going to have to move it further round. The problem with that is, so you know, we're not far off having it in the right place there, so that would fit on there. But what you've got to figure now, of course, is that I'm looking at this from the top, if you like. We've got a radiator here somewhere, and I'm pretty sure that's going to foul into there. So I think what I'm going to have to do is have that coming uphill like that, and then we'll just have to put some bends on it to get it down. It's not ideal, but I'm kind of limited where I can put the wastegate actuator on this back side. You know, it'll only go in so many places. So I think that's where we're going to have to go with it, and then we're just going to have to do the plumbing afterwards. And if that means it's got to have like a 90-degree on it and shoot across, we'll just go to the car. So the turbine's going to be in here, and if it's pointing uphill, we'll have to have a tube coming across to get it down to the intercooler, which is going to be in the front panel. Unless I can just drop it down on this side. Obviously there's no intercooler here now. We've got rid of that one, so we've got a bit of space at this end. So it might be I've got to get that way, but in any event, I think what I'll do for the moment is I'll just put it back together like that, and then when we get it actually in the car, we'll have an idea just exactly what the direction's going to be for, you know, where those pipes are going to have to go down to the intercooler. So I'll get it put back together, and then we'll have another look at that. Maybe have to have a look at it when the engine's back in the car, but at least we've got a good idea of what we're going to try and achieve with it. Right, there's the distributor, and what I've done is I've just changed this O-ring here because there was quite a lot of oil leaking out. Anyway, when I've taken the old one off, it is absolutely rock hard. It's like a piece of plastic. So it's no wonder it wasn't doing any sealing work, because obviously that is a rubber O-ring. So anyway, that's good, and that is ready to go back onto the end of the camshaft. It was a bit of a late one at the unit last night. I didn't leave here until 2:30 in the morning. It was one of those where you kind of get stuck into jobs, and I didn't really want to go. Anyway, that was good news. This morning I don't know if you can hear that. That's Tim thrashing a engine on the dyno next door. Always sound fantastic. Anyway, one thing led to another, and I bumped into Andy, and he had a look at the gearbox, and he said, I've got some dry ice left, whip it up to me, and we'll give it a clean off. So I'm going to walk up that way, and we're going to have a look and see what she looks like. Okay, so we've got that gearbox back from Andy after he put the ice blaster on it. Must say I'm bloody impressed, but let's have a look and just see what she looks like now. So you can see there, I mean, in the bell housing, it has absolutely come up fantastically. It's got rid of all of that oil that was about. The diff looks brilliant, so much so that I'm not going to paint that. And the actual outside of the gearbox as well, it's come up really good. So needless to say, I'm very impressed with that. All I need to do is just change that end casing, and then basically she's going to be pretty much ready to go back in. And then the water snake pipe, it's come up fantastically as well. So that's got the takeoffs for the heater as well as the top hose. So that's good. So we've got a couple of things there to put back together, and then we're not a million miles off. Once I've got that clutch from Italy, we're not far off at all getting the gearbox mated up, and then that engine can go back in the car, which will be fantastic. So we'll just keep cracking away at it, and we'll get there in the end, I think. Quite a lot done there then on this episode. Really has taken shape. If you've got any queries or anything like that, then you know, just put a comment down there below, and don't forget to like it and ideally subscribe. One thing I am missing is the front pulley off the crank for an 8 valve. If anyone out there has got a front pulley, which is the one with the 5 grooves in it that drives the alternator belt, and over the water pump as well, then I need one of those front pulleys. Seems like they're quite rare, and the usual people are struggling to get hold of one for me. But in any event, thanks for watching Otto's Garage. I'll catch you on the next episode. Stay safe. See you later. Bye bye.